Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology with Pluto, the 8th house in Scorpio. And I meant to do this on Halloween and I procrastinated a little bit. I'm sorry, but better late than never, I guess. And anyway, I just think that it's so interesting and intriguing that we have this correlation with Halloween and the sun being in Scorpio, and we look at Scorpio and Halloween. They're both inextricably connected and interwound, and we see the connection with things of the macabre, horror, things that are eerie, spooky, ghastly, things that are connected with the supernatural, the occult. People often dress up in costumes, things of a ghoulish nature as far as their costumes go. People like to be, often on Halloween, people like to be, I think they do like to be scared, and they say that Scorpio can be very imposing and intimidating, the sign, and many people do fear the sign of Scorpio. I would say especially Scorpio rising people, and it just seems to be a very strong connection and correlation with this. We look at it's interesting to see how we'll see a number of shows that'll come on during the time when the sun resides in Scorpio. Thought it was very interesting. I'll give you one very good example. Tales of the Dark Side. The first of the pilot episode premiered on October 29th, 1983. Of course, the sun was in Scorpio on that day. Pluto was in Libra, but at the very tail end of Libra. It was at 29 degrees and 41 to 44 minutes of arc, so it was very close on the cusp of Scorpio right there. And a lot of times when something, a major planet, or just planets in general, I should say, when they're at 0 or 1 degrees, it signifies the beginning of something. And the series did, I guess, it did somewhat start. Then that was the pilot episode. Now the series itself started on September 30th, 1984. Now at that time, the sun wasn't in Scorpio, obviously, but you had Venus in Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio, 14 degrees. Pluto was in Scorpio at 1 degree. Pluto made a conjunction to Venus in Scorpio on that day, so it can indicate that there was going to be something. Venus, a lot of times, Venus can be connected with not just how we love, but things that we love, and this was going to be something that a show a lot of people would love, I think, and it is connected with Scorpio, things connected with horror, the macabre, the things that are connected with mystery and death. So these are all, I just find this too coincidental to just blame it on coincidence. I think there was a definite connection. And Pluto was at 1 degree Scorpio on this time, and as I stated before, something 0 or 1 degrees of a sign can often be an indicator of something, the beginning of something, and this was the beginning of that series. Now, interestingly enough, the show Murder, She Wrote premiered on that same day, on September 30th, 1984, and of course that's connected with death and mystery. Now, let's talk about some people that have a strong connection with things that are Scorpio and or 8th house related. Now, Vincent Price, the actor. Now, when you first glance at his chart, it doesn't look like he's got anything really strongly associated with the sign Scorpio, but yet he was so connected with movies of the horror genre, and it just one of the main people connected with the macabre in that we, you know, in our history as far as movies go. Now, he had the ruler of the 10th house in the 8th house. Now that can indicate somebody whose career might be somehow connected with things of an 8th house nature, such as, I mean, for example, astrology. Well, this is not, you know, in his case, but the 8th house is connected with things with the supernatural, the occult, horror, and this is also, he had Jupiter in Scorpio in the 8th house, and Jupiter doesn't do anything on a small scale. So this is something where I think this is why we saw him have such a, I guess you could say, figure so prominently as far as movies go, and being so popular in this kind of film genre. Now, Alfred Hitchcock, he had the moon in Scorpio, and it made a tight conjunction with his Jupiter in Scorpio. Now, as I stated before, Jupiter doesn't do anything on a small scale. Now, not looking at the signs, if you just take the moon and Jupiter, this could indicate a lot of, you know, I guess, expansive, happy emotions and emotionally exuberance, but he had it in Scorpio, and the moon is associated with our emotional needs, and this was obviously things that were connected with mystery, and this was something obviously strongly connected with Alfred Hitchcock's emotional needs. So it showed how he was so enamored and fixated with this with this subject, I believe. Now, I know somebody that has the Sun in the 8th house, and Mars in the 8th house as well, and this person is very strongly has such a profound interest in astrology, and she also worked as I don't remember the exact title, but something like in mortuary cosmetology. And Mars in Gemini is as far as the Mars placement goes, is in that house, and Mars in Gemini can have certain dexterous ability and be known for dexterity. So I can kind of see how this panned out as far as some of the work she did, and also she has the ruler of the 10th house in the 8th house, which is the Sun in the 8th house. So and she also has Pluto in the 1st house conjunct the ascendant. So you don't necessarily have to have Scorpio rising or the Sun in Scorpio or Moon in Scorpio to have some inclination for things that are connected with the occult, astrology, metaphysical, supernatural, or what have you. A lot of it can depend on planets in house placements, or if you have something like Pluto conjunct the ascendant, or Pluto conjunct the Sun, Pluto conjunct the Moon. I also have another friend, and she has, I mean, get a load of this, Pluto, she has Scorpio on the 8th house cusp. She also has Pluto conjunct the Moon in Scorpio in the 8th house. So obviously it would be very difficult for this person not to have any interest associated with the sign Scorpio. And sure enough, like the other friend that I talked about before, she has a very profound interest in the subject of astrology, very enamored with it, and wants to learn more. So there's obviously there is a strong correlation with Scorpio, things with the 8th house in Pluto, and as I stated before, there's too much for me to say, well, all this is just purely coincidental. Like I stated with the Halloween falls on this particular day on October 31st, and when the Sun is in Scorpio. And I would imagine because Mercury sometimes will be in Scorpio, sometimes Sag, sometimes Libra during this time. If Mercury is also in Scorpio on the particular month and on that particular year that Halloween falls, obviously it would indicate where there's even more communication that's associated with as far as astrology, as far as things connected with Halloween. And I would imagine, it would vary year to year, but on the years where Venus would be in Scorpio as well, this would indicate more of a propensity for people to purchase items that would be associated with Halloween and the supernatural. I would imagine there would be more, on average, purchases made because of this, because Venus is not just associated with love, as most of you know. It's connected with things that are monetary as well. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for astrology, the 8th house, Pluto, and Scorpio. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my Chiron aspect series. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.